Hi everyone, welcome back to another small tutorial, a nice little tutorial for you. I just wanted to show you how I would work with something a little smaller. So I'm going to transfer an image from a photograph to a little canvas. And I thought, why not paint it and just show you how I would approach this kind of a thing. It's a lovely little seascape. Well, not so much a seascape, cliffs coming down into the ocean. Somebody asked me to paint this, so I thought, why not do a little tutorial on this as well at the same time. Let me show you what I'm doing. Okay? I'm set up here on my kitchen. A mess. Look at this stuff everywhere. Camera, tripod, box, paints, everything. Everything is out. This is my board from the studio on top of an easel. So this is a photograph, and they want me to transfer this in a painting onto a little canvas like that. Wouldn't that be lovely? And put a lovely frame around it then. That's the plan anyway. So, you know, we might learn a thing or two about this. We could get really thick paint on here now with the palette knife. This is going to be, I'd say, almost a palette knife kind of a painting. So what do you think? Will we give it a go? Should we try it? I think we should. I think we should try it. This will be fun. Don't go anywhere. Okay, let's start. I did a very quick sketch, okay? Now, I don't know if you can see the photograph there or not. I tried to fit it in on camera. Let me just maybe zoom back a little. I might be able to squeeze it in somewhere in the corner. I can kind of go back and forth anyway. So this is it. I'm going to start now. I've only a handful of colours, okay? Nice warm colours. I'm just going to start. This is a very dry canvas, so it may soak in a bit. But look, let's just try it and see how we go. Let's dampen the brush. And now I have a bit of green on my brush here from yesterday. I painted a golf course. And I still have a bit of green, you see? Now that might not be very good for a sky, would it? So let's try a different brush. Dampen this brush slightly. Yeah, that's not bad. I might get away with that. That's okay. Pretty warm, but it's fine. A nice bright sky. Now I might go slightly more grey than blue on the sky, because the sky in the photograph is just white. You can't really see any clouds or anything like that. So I may just go very pale. Very pale grey, alright? And that will help as well with the colours later on, with all those greens. Just kind of keeping it nice and simple. And this as well now is quite watery. I just want to kind of put something on the canvas. I don't want to leave the canvas just white. So I think a little touch of grey will be nice on the canvas. Just a very light touch of grey. So this will be a nice little tutorial now. It's just a nice simple little tutorial. It's going to be a quick tutorial. I'm not going to take more than 40 minutes, I would think, because I'm going to do most of this now with a palette knife as well, so getting lots of thick paint on. You know what I mean. It's just going to be a nice fun little painting to do. And I love doing these little paintings as well. It's nice for a change rather than doing big paintings all of the time. Now let me see. I may add a touch of darker colour there, only a touch and a hint of blue perhaps, with lots of white. It's only just for along the top of this, only just very slightly, you see. Just to give it a little bit of interest, that's all. You know, even that's probably even okay. Let's go and do the ocean. Okay, a little phaylo blue and a little black. And again, I'm not going to go with blues in this ocean. I want to keep this painting very kind of neutral. It's a very sort of a dull day in this kind of a picture, so I want to kind of show that slightly in the painting. So it's not a very bright sunny day. There's not loads of colour kind of popping up. Apart from these greens and these flowers down here, there will be lots of colour in them later on. But you know, I don't want to be going very vibrant with the colours. No, go across here with that for the ocean, lying off in the distance. I'm going to fill this in across here. You see, it's only a very small painting. Look, it's tiny, but the small ones sometimes are the nicest ones, I find. I think just working on them is fantastic, and they do make beautiful paintings. Now I want to soften this off, so I'm just taking a hint of white with my brush, And I'm going to go along here. And sort of just kind of soften that off into the distance. Does that make sense? Then I clean my brush, I dry it, and drag right across where they both meet again. So it's a nice soft kind of effect. Isn't that lovely? Now what we can do as well is just to give this a little bit of interest in the ocean. We don't want it completely flat either as it comes closer. Let's take a hint of the blue and a hint of the black and just suggest a little bit of darkness kind of popping through the water here and there. You see what I mean? Just a little, just to give it a bit of interest. Now, I think that's done. Let's move on to these lovely cliffs. And the cliffs, basically, they're very, very simple, really. They really are. They're very simple. You can look at this and you can go into loads of detail if you like, but I'm just going to keep it simple. Excuse me. Now, I'm just going to take a nice little flat brush, okay? And I'm going to go with, I'll start with some nice green. I'll come down with some greens and we'll finish up then with the darks at the bottom, okay? So, a slightly damp brush. I'm going to take some black, a little cadmium yellow, and bearing in mind now I want to keep this painting kind of cool. As I was saying earlier, I don't want to go very rich. So a little hint of phthalo blue and then a hint of Naples yellow. Now that will give me a nice cool kind of a green. And you can kind of alternate them between the colours. So for example, that's still a bit dark now for me. Yeah, it's a little bit dark, even on camera it looks a bit dark. So I'm going to hint of cadmium yellow and a hint more of Naples yellow. And the Naples yellow will make this nice and soft. That's why I use Naples yellow in almost every single painting, because you can use it to make colours lovely and soft, alright? If you find your colours are becoming too rich, pop a little Naples yellow and it'll just soften it back slightly. Now I'm just going to pull that down. Okay, it comes down. I'm not going to go all the way down to the dark part of the cliff where it goes dark and grey and black and brown. Just going to fill in this green section here. Take some more. Now I'll take a hint of turpentine just in this, just to soften it slightly, okay? Cadmium yellow, Naples yellow, a hint of black, and a tiniest hint of blue. We have a separate kind of a ridge here, which kind of comes over and down like that, doesn't it? Just put it in there with the brush so we can see. And now, you'll probably say to yourself, you know, this looks very kind of flat, there's nothing happening in it. Let's take a little hint of Naples yellow and a hint of cadmium. And I might just pop a little bit of that in just here and there. Look, just pulling it downwards with the brush. Flicking it, you see? And dabbing, just dabbing with the tip of the brush very gently here and there. And then what I want to do is darken it here. So then, what we have is a dark and a light. So this will stand out then afterwards, okay? So let's take some black and some cadmium yellow. And I'm going to make that slightly darker down here. Maybe a hint of burnt umber. Okay? So then we'll have this nice lighter colour against it. And it will kind of push it back slightly. Now I can go a bit darker, I think. A little bit more black, a little bit more blue. You really have to be careful with that blue because it's a very, very strong colour. It really is. It overpowers the palette very, very quickly. So just be a little bit careful with the phthalo blue, alright? Now, I'm happy enough with that, just for now. Next, I may take another small flat brush. Let me see, have I got one here? I should have one. Okay? In fact, I don't see my little stubby anywhere. I think I left it down in my studio. I won't bother going down for it now because I'm in the middle of this video, but Yeah, that's a pity now. I was hoping to use my small stubby. Yeah, all I have is my medium and large. No worries. Look, I'll use something very similar, a small flat brush. I'll dampen it very slightly and dry it. I'll go down here now and create some nice dark colours for the rocky area. So burnt umber, some black and Naples yellow. Okay, so we want a nice soft green. Alright, not a green, a grey. Maybe a hint of white because that Naples yellow is just getting lost in there. We have a nice soft, warm kind of a grey here, you see? And I'm just going to put that in very sort of loose, just very loosely. If you're worried now about the details and stuff, you can use a small brush if you like. I just find sometimes using the very, very small pointy brush, it just forces you too much into getting detail and getting it just perfect. Whereas the larger brush like this is slightly more forgiving, if you know what I mean. That makes sense. Slightly more forgiving. Okay. Now what we can do then is take our small brush after this, and then we can go in with some real dark colours and give it some nice shadows in here and there, look. So I like to do the filling in section with the bigger brush and then just go with your darker brush afterwards and look, pop some little details in here and there. Isn't that much easier to work with? Take a little black, and we put a little black in here. So I'm kind of picking up little hints of black and little hints of burnt umber, alright? You see? Just popping them in, creating little touches of detail just here and there in the distance. I'd give this a nice darker section here. Okay. And again, this is just an impression, okay? You don't have to go and try to get this absolutely perfect and spot on every single time when you're doing things like this. It's an impression, okay? These rock formations will change as the tide rises anyway and goes out. So it's going to change constantly. It's never going to look exactly the same, I would think. Now take a hint of white. Now, even though it's not in the photograph, I'm going to put a hint of white just along here and there, just to suggest tiny little waves breaking here and there, alright? Just gives it a bit of life, that's all. Do you think? I think it does, just a little. And look, you could even put a couple of little dabs in here and there. Perhaps the water is kind of splashing up on some of the rock. Nice thick paint. Now, I'm happy enough with that. What I will do actually is, forgive me, I will just take a little Naples yellow and white, and with that light colour, just give a little tiny hint of highlights just here and there. It's primarily just to kind of separate these two cliffs. Pop one or two in just here and there, look, just to bring it up the side of the cliff just a little. Let's take another one or two, look. So it almost sort of blends into the cliff. I'm just dabbing it, that's all, just kind of scraping my brush onto that canvas, just here and there, look. Some thick ones, some small ones. Now, how's that? Moving on to the second side over here, and it's the very same process. Okay, again, keep it simple. Cadmium yellow, Naples yellow, a little touch of turpentine, now a little black, hint of blue, and I'll take a hint of Naples yellow again to lighten that more. fill that in. I love doing these smaller paintings, they're really fun, they really, really are. Okay, stop there. Then I go into my darker colour again. Black, brown and a hint of Naples. A tiny amount of turpentine again, just because my canvas is quite kind of dry, it's quite on the kind of dry side. So I want to just help it flow a little bit better, that's all. You know what I mean. Okay, that's good. Bring that in here, that nice colour. I'll take a hint of white, just to lighten it slightly. Bring that grey further in. The grey does cover a lot of the cliff here, doesn't it? So let's bring that slightly further up. Again, following the direction of the hill, you see what I mean? Now, I'll leave that and then again, I'll go back to my small brush. So you're following this okay, yes? And you can see it okay. I was a little worried earlier because I had my blind was up and the sun was coming in and hitting the canvas. So it was very bright. I had to pull the blind down and I hope it's bright enough that you can see it nicely and that you can see the colours. You know, it's tricky, it's very, very tricky sometimes to get a nice tutorial because depending on sometimes the sun is coming from or the lighting in the studio could be coming at a certain direction and it's very tricky sometimes to get the lighting just right. So sometimes I could spend up to an hour sometimes trying to just get the lighting just right in the studio before I start recording. So it does take a lot of time. Now, black and brown again, popping them in here. One that comes out here slightly more. I'm just giving this now a nice light impression, that's all. Okay, there we go, that's like that. Okay, like that. Again, I'm not going to try and copy this exactly the very same as what's there. I really am not. It's just, again, a nice impression. Take some black and not just popping some. This is really, I suppose, all about getting the direction of the cliff. You see, I'm pulling it down this way. My brush strokes are telling me which way the cliff is moving and falling. So just bear that in mind. It's all just to do with your brush strokes. That's it, nothing else. Okay, so I'm going to leave it like that. Now I'm going to pop in some lights. Some Naples yellow, a hint of white. And this is all you need. Don't try to match colours because this will mix down with the colours on the canvas, okay? And it will just create natural colours. Dash a little bit there. Now clean the brush when it gets dirty. Just give it a quick one. Then go back in and pick up some more. Okay, it's going to come down like that. Now, very simple. Not just so easy. And again, I'm going to just cut across one part of that there. I'm just going to cut across here, okay, with some white. Because I came down a bit too far with that, so I'll just simply pop some water in. As if there's waves kind of breaking. And the same here. We just pop a bit in, look. Just a little. And we are finished this side. Well, isn't that lovely? All using nice small brushes. I love this kind of work. Now we're on to the big guys here. Now first, what I will do is, when I paint these types of things here, I generally fill in blocking areas of colour, and then I put darks and lights on top. So I'm just going to take my kind of medium flat brush here. In fact, no, I'll take this one, look, my kind of rough one. And I'll mix a nice green. We have a kind of a lighter green here, so I'll mix a lighter green. Cadmium yellow, Naples yellow, a little touch of black. And I'm going to go with a hint of blue because it's quite a soft, kind of a colour, this colour over here. And go along like that. And I'll do the same. I'll lighten it slightly actually, with a hint more blue. I'm going to make it slightly cooler on this side. Then I'm going to pick up more green. Let's pick some more cadmium yellow, lamp black actually, that's what it is, lamp black. I'll come across here. Then I'm going to take a hint of sienna into that. I'm going to pop some sienna in around here because it's getting quite ready around here, isn't it? So let's just mix a nice sienna with cadmium yellow and a hint of black, okay? Just a hint. And just cover that in. Just cover it right in. And generally when I'm doing this, I tend to work from dark to light, if you know what I mean. So I generally put in some of the darker colours. I'm going to work some darker colours into these in just a moment, okay? But I'm just kind of getting the different sections just kind of blocked in, that's all. I'm going to make a nice dark green for this side, a little turpentine, a little more yellow, because as it comes closer to you, these darker colours will push everything else off into the distance. Understand? So that's why I was being kind of subtle with those greens. I might even lighten some of those greens now as well, okay? So don't worry, they do look a little bit on the dark side still, but I will lighten them. Now, we get a hint of black, a hint of phaylo, and some yellow. A bit more black. Put that very dark colour in there. Right down in the corner here. Perhaps even a hint of burnt umber. Then I'd lighten it again. Come over here. No, it's only an impression of the scene again. I keep saying that. It's an impression of the scene. Look, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. Do you know what I mean? Now, next, what will I do next? I want to darken some of this with a subtle grey kind of a colour. Just around there. Pop a few greys. Pop a few in there. I may take some burnt umber and sienna and a couple of flicks of that darker colour just as a base, okay? It's just kind of as a base colour. Just underneath there. And let me see now. Take a bit more dark green. Right. So we're really getting down now to the nitty-gritty in this painting. We're really getting into it. I'm going to lighten the green off in the distance ever so slightly, okay? I just feel it's a bit on the dark side. So I'll take a little cadmium yellow with white and a hint of that blue there, okay? Let me just see now, can I lighten this very slightly? I think that's better. I think that's a little better. Yeah, that just kind of pushes it off slightly, doesn't it? Now let's get into some real thick paint. I'm thinking first a fan brush, okay? A fan brush for this area. I'm going to take some, let me just dampen it slightly. I'm going to take some white, some Naples yellow. Now I need to get more Naples yellow, excuse me. Let me just pop that on the palette there. This is nice, I like this. Naples yellow, a little hint of cadmium yellow, and a tiniest hint of blue. Now I don't want to go too bright with this, okay? So just dull it down slightly. I'm going for a very bright bluey kind of a green, very, very whitey kind of a colour. Now with that, let's just go. Now again, this is so far off in the distance, it really doesn't have to be that perfect. So you see what I mean? I'm just dabbing it very gently and softening it in. All I want to do is just create a bit of texture, that's all. And I'll do the same. Let me dampen it again. Do the same with this side here. Now there's not a huge amount of paint on my brush, okay? Only a little. Now with the same brush, I'm going to go into some sienna, maybe with that burnt umber, perhaps a hint of cadmium red. And I'm just going to soften that in there. Now let me see if I have a different fan brush, because it's just not working on this brush very, very well. I think the brush is a little bit on the, because it's kind of new, it's a very hard sort of a bristle. I need something that's kind of clumped together a little bit better, you see? Let me try this. Cadmium red, burnt sienna, burnt umber. Ah, that's better. I might throw a hint of cadmium yellow into that. Now this will be just sort of the darker sections, okay? I'll be putting some lighter colours on these later on, not to worry. Let's take some cadmium yellow and sienna. I'm just going to give some nice orangey, let's get some cadmium red actually, but yellow. Give some nice orangey flowers here and there, look. There we go. Cadmium yellow, cadmium red. Gives you a beautiful orange colour, doesn't it? You see, I'm just being very rough. I'm only just creating a very loose impression of the scene. Do you understand? It's all just very, very loose and very rough. And that's the way they would be in nature anyway. Put a few up here, look. Couple there, just to kind of, you know, mix it up a little. Let's go and put a few more down here. So you see, I have cadmium yellow and cadmium red both on the brush, but they're separate, if you know what I mean. Now I'll leave it at that just for now. I'll clean my brush now, and you see I might put in some of these sections here, and for that now I would normally use a big splayed brush like this. Let me just firstly put a nice dark bush in just around here, okay? Like that. And I might darken this as well, just a little. Some black and a hint of phthalo blue. Because it's still a little bit on the light side, isn't it? Darken that slightly. Lots of thick paint. And I might darken some down here as well. Just a little. So, this big bush here, this is kind of, I suppose, the main sort of focal point for me. This big bush here. I'm just thinking how best to approach it. Let me see now, let me just pop one or two dark colours in here and there. Okay, there, one there. And I'll work on these then later as I go, yeah? Now, that bush. I would normally use kind of a flattish brush. Let me see now. I'm just thinking now about what types of brushes to use for that. I might try this. Yeah? Let's give it a go. Let me just clean this brush first. Get most of that colour out. And I'm going to mix a very nice rich green for that then. I'll take some cadmium yellow. Now I need more cadmium yellow on my palette. It's coming along quite nicely now, isn't it? Okay, cadmium yellow. There we are. And I'll take a hint of Naples yellow. I'm thinking just those two together, but primarily cadmium yellow, okay? And maybe just tiniest hint of white. Now, I'm just going to try that and see. So, it's a very random kind of a bush, isn't it? But they're kind of prominent as well. So, let's just go like... Let's try this and see how this works out. Just the corner of the brush. And then let it kind of soften back in to the dark, okay? Barely touching the canvas all the way down like that. Okay? Now, clean the tip of the brush. Go back into this lovely bright colour we have here, look. And let's go across here. That's not too bad now, is it? And let's come down here. Add an extra one or two kind of bushy pieces popping out. So it's all done just with the corner of this kind of a rough splayed kind of a brush. That's all. And I put a couple of those up here, see? And I might pop a couple around up here. We're getting there now, aren't we? Okay, soften this down. And now I'm going to put in some of these lovely spiky kind of fellas. Let me see now, let me see. I need a very pointy brush for this. A very small pointy brush. I'll take some cadmium yellow and I'm going to put lots of turpentine in this because thin paint over thick, okay? It'll kind of flow nicely. Cadmium yellow, Naples and a bit of white. I'm just going to go for a very, very bright colour. Now let me just keep mixing around with this to see if I can get just the right consistency. I'll try it a couple of times and see. Now you can leave all this background dry if you like. Some people would let this dry before they continue on. Let's go down here. clean that off and go back into more. So you can kind of see now how you can simplify a scene like this. Just nice and simple. Not too much trouble, just lots and lots of fun. And if you want to allow that to mix into some of the reds, that's fine as well. It's absolutely fine. That will just pick up other colours and make it feel much more natural. Okay? So just keep going like this as long as you want. And I may use a palette knife now in just a moment and try and get some of this in with a palette knife. Wouldn't that be nice? I'll take some white, very, very whitey colour, and pop some very bright ones in just here. And I may try a palette knife. Okay? Let's get some Naples yellow, some cadmium yellow pale, and some white. Let's just try it and see how we go, yes? Get some on the corner of your knife. And let's just drag it up and down like that. I know it's a lot greener on the photograph, but you know, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. And I may take a hint of red and just put a splash of red here and there with the palette knife, because the red really pops. Let's take a splash of yellow as well. I know it's not in the photograph in yellow, but I think just nice rich warm colours are going to catch your eye and bring it to life. Isn't that right? Okay, a couple down there, and put a few off up there like that. Keeping it nice and simple. Simple being the key word, okay? Now look at that. Isn't that just wonderful? Also, they asked me would I put in the boat. There's a little tiny boat off in the distance. It's like some burnt umber, perhaps a little bit of black. Pop in a little boat. Alright. And let's get a little bit of a reflection, tiny reflection. And then a little bit of a lighter colour just inside the boat. You see? There. I think that will do, and I'll give it a tiny, tiny suggestion of a little tiny rope. Off of it like that, okay? And I'm fairly happy with that, I really am. I don't think we need to go to huge amounts of trouble on this. You know, it's a nice, colourful painting, isn't it? And I think we'll just keep it simple. Now I have a frame for this. Let's stick a frame on this and see how it looks. And there we go. Now, isn't that wonderful? What do you think about that? A nice simple little painting. I'm sure they will be delighted with it. I'm sure they will. And with that, my friends, I bid you a very good day. Let me turn this here. Now, I'm going to show you the two together, okay? Just so you can get an idea. There we go. You see? They're similar, but you know, keep them slightly different. It's just adding a bit of colour to them. I can darken that maybe a bit more if I wanted to. But in general, I'm happy with that. Very, very happy. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got a couple of little tips out of that. Some inspiration even. Inspiration is the most important thing of any tutorial. Inspiration. Go and get your brushes and try it, okay? I promise, just grab your brushes and get the paint on the canvas. You will feel better, I promise. Go on, I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it, and subscribe. Please do subscribe. I'll see you later, and God bless.